Well, hello there, everyone, and welcome. We are so glad that you're here. Go on and come on in, get comfortable, however you'd like to participate in today's discussion. You are here for Gearing Up for Year End, and we're talking about maximizing donor retention and boosting year-end giving. We have Muhi Khwaja as today's presenter. As we allow all of the other guests and attendees to join us, let's go ahead and practice that chat box, if you would. Go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat. Maybe even let us know your organization, what organization you're joining us from. And then also, where in this great wide world are you joining us from as well? We really like to know, what part of the country you're tuning in. Little known fact, or maybe unknown if you've not met Muhi, he is a world traveler. So I would not be surprised if we had people all over the world joining us for today's discussion. Thank you to those that are certainly going ahead and letting us know that you're here and what organization you're with. I hope that everyone's got some great weather. Muhi, have you been to Tahoe? Because I was just talking to my husband. That's definitely a place I need to go.
It is absolutely gorgeous. I haven't been since moving out of the Bay Area,
Yeah,
but it was definitely an annual pilgrimage
good.
because it's just that beautiful.
Good. Well, we've got Karen from Tahoe joining us. I see. I don't know you, Brandon, but the Carolinas are my home states. I'm actually from South Carolina originally, so it's good to see someone from the East Coast as well. And then Muhi, of course, is in Florida, although I don't know that that's where you're sitting at the moment. So,
Yeah, good eye on that. I'm traveling in Atlanta,
nice.
but I'll be stateside, maybe in Thanksgiving or um, Christmas time frame, do some international travel and sneak it in. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, again, thanks for everyone. If you're just joining us, we're just asking that you please let us know what organization you're joining us with today or representing today, as well as your location. Just go ahead and use that chat box. And we also will be facilitating the Q&A, so just a heads up there. I am Jarrett. I will be serving as today's moderator. Jarrett Ransom. I use she, her pronouns. I'm founder of the Raven Group, and I'm also a trainer here with Fundraising Academy. So honored to serve as today's moderator. Also want to remind you that today's session is being recorded and you will receive a link to watch this. If you haven't signed up for our online portal, we certainly encourage you to do that. I believe you can scan that QR code and it will take you right to that online portal. It is free. It is open to any of you as nonprofit professionals, as well as your board members. So I highly encourage you to share this as well with your board members. There's a lot of great information there. So we provide services and fundraising training to nonprofit organizations, school districts, and fundraisers with professional training programs and tools based on our cause selling education model that Muhi is going to share a little bit with us today, as he also shares those insights in regards to year-end fundraising. So I would like to introduce today, we have Muhi Khwaja, trainer with Fundraising Academy at National University. He has a very robust history. So pardon me as my eyes divert. I want to make sure I honor your bio here. Trainer, of course, Fundraising Academy, and co-founder and chief development officer with the American Muslim Community Foundation. He earned his bachelor's in history and psychology from the University of Michigan in 2009. Muhi didn't know what to do until the summer before he graduated. The Development Summer Internship Program at the University of Michigan is what sparked his interest in fundraising development, really, as that career he's taken on. After working with several different nonprofits, Muhi earned his master's in public administration in 2013 from University of Michigan. I know he's a big Michigan fan. And specializing in that nonprofit management. He has over 15 years of nonprofit experience and fundraising experience as anywhere from a one-person development team to a chief development officer managing a team. In 2016, he became a CFRE, which is Certified Fundraising Executive. And in 2017, he earned a certificate of fundraising management from Indiana University's Lilly Family School of Philanthropy. We're not done, because in 2024, he earned his executive certificate in religious fundraising from IULFSOP. Now, Muhi, what does all that stand for?
Just the Indiana University Lilly Family School of Philanthropy again. Yeah.
Fantastic. And in 2022, he joined the Fundraising Academy as a trainer. So thank you, Muhi, for all of the service you've done in our nonprofit sector and for serving today as our trainer. So I will let you take it away. And finally, to remind all of our guests that are joining us for this conversation today, we encourage you to use the chat box, and we also encourage you to use the Q&A. I will save the Q&As for the end, unless it's relevant in the time of which Muhi is presenting. So we also have a couple of polls. We will bring those up during today's discussion. And thank you for being here, Muhi.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Wendy, for that shout out. And also Jarrett. Really just honored to be here with you today. Being a trainer at Fundraising Academy is really just a great opportunity to share the tidbits, but also learn, because, I find myself as a lifelong learner and somebody who wants to make the path for others in this space a little bit easier. And Fundraising Academy allows me to do that. I've had the pleasure of meeting Jarrett a few times in person and at Cultivate with Fundraising Academy and at AFP, all the fantastic ways in which we can continue our professional development. So this webinar is in that spirit of continuing our journey in this profession. So really today we are here to understand the importance of segmenting your donor base into categories such as loyal, lapsed, major, new, prospective donors. We're here to learn how to tailor communications and engagement strategies for each segment to foster deeper connections and, more importantly, increase retention and reduce attrition. We want to be utilizing storytelling to emotionally engage donors and to illustrate the direct impact of their contributions. Key component of stewardship, right? And we want to implement personalized communication methods, including tailored emails, handwritten notes, direct phone calls, and all of this, of course, to enhance donor relationships. So before we jump into all of this good stuff, we're going to launch a poll. And really, it's just to get an idea of who is in the room here today. So on your screen, you should be able to see how many years have you worked at a nonprofit. We got 0 to 1, 2 to 4 years, 5 to 9 years, and some OGs in the room with over a decade of experience. So we see some good distribution, but I'm really happy that even those people, the majority in the room, 41% of you are here with 10 years or more of experience, and you're still here, you're still learning. So you're in the right place. And those of you with 5 to 9 years, about 19%, 2 to 4 years, 26%, and we have some newbies at 15%. So absolutely, each of us are just still figuring it out as we go along the way. So thank you for participating in the survey. So really, the cost selling cycle helps fundraisers become stronger fundraisers, to really understand the basics of a traditional major gift cycle and where there may be some gaps, and really fine-tuning that process of relationship management so that you can better cultivate your relationships. And this cycle includes 8 essential steps, and it's really regardless of gift potential. And each of these are certain predictable actions that should be performed to, again, enhance the relationship. So think of these as the different steps in a sales cycle. And, we use cost selling, we say sales, but it's really a mindset shift of what the word sales means, right? It's about giving the customer what they want, right? So in our case, giving the donor what they're looking for. So if we look at it from that framework, we can have a positive lens and mindset to this entire concept in case it is new. So in phase one, this is all of the work that is necessary to prospect for qualified potential donors. And in phase two, it's really the face-to-face time with the prospective donors to establish rapport. And in phase three, this includes everything after the gift is given. So when you compare it to a traditional major gift cycle or something like that, there may be a heavy focus on just solicitation and it being an equal piece of the pie. But really, the cause selling cycle breaks it down into these different steps, into these different phases, so that you know what work has to be done before meeting the prospect, while you meet the prospect, and once they become a donor ongoing. So I want to just very briefly define some of these different steps so that we have a basis of what this makeup of a donor relationship looks like. So prospecting is where you will be finding qualified donors, but more importantly, determining their propensity to give to your organization. Why is it that they have connected with your organization? Then you have the pre-approach. And this is about preparing to make a great first impression by learning more about your prospect. And then you're going to be setting up your approach. And the approach is all about making that first impression because you only get that one opportunity. It's really rare that you might get a second opportunity to make a good impression. So need discovery is all about asking meaningful questions and practicing active listening to build trust, to learn key information about your prospect. And then comes the presentation, where you get to communicate your mission, your cause, you demonstrate the impact, and you ensure that the presentation you're giving is really tailored to what you learned about the prospect, how they want to receive that information. And of course, a presentation wouldn't be complete without your ability to handle objections. And this is all about embracing objections and seeing them as an opportunity rather than an obstacle. It's your way to get closer to a yes. Then in phase three, it includes the ask. And this is where you've developed enough of a relationship where you feel comfortable asking for support. You have a understanding of how their needs and interests and passion align with your mission. And now you are poised to make the ask with confidence and success. Because sometimes, even as a seasoned fundraiser, you get nervous around the ask, right? Am I asking too much? Am I asking too little? Are they ready to say yes? All of these things are playing in the background. But again, if you do all of these steps in order, it will help you become more successful at making the ask and hopefully your donor saying yes. And lastly, stewardship is the importance of fostering loyalty through strong donor engagement practices and deepening relationships with your donor. And I'll let Jarrett chime in because you've been tangentially involved with Fundraising Academy and you've presented and you've done other things, but would love to hear your thoughts on the cause selling cycle.
Yeah, thank you, Muhi. And I love that you just took us around the cycle for that. And I just put in the chat, stewardship equals my favorite, right? Like getting to that point, really getting to steward our donors, our supporters. For all of you OGs, and I'm certainly one of those here as well, 20 plus years, I did not know about cause selling education until probably 3 years ago, right? And so really seeing this model as it's laid out here with these 3 phases, with the 8 steps, has just blown my mind. I think naturally, I probably put a lot of this into place. But really having this model as a tool and a resource, as well as the online portal to share with, the organizations that I work with, and as well as the board members that serve on these organizations and are often asking, well, why haven't we asked X, Y, and Z, right, for a donation yet? And then I get to educate them on this cycle, and it really helps them to see it more clearly, as what is the motivation? How are we going about this in a seemingly moves management way? So I always like bringing this to the board table and the board discussions as well. I think it's extremely insightful. I love that it has selling in there as, one of the vernacular. The reason I love that is, as Muhi said, really a lot of people can understand a sales cycle, but we don't necessarily comprehend a fundraising cycle, especially for our board members. And so when we can see that comparison and something so visually represented like we have here, phase 1, 2, and 3, I found great success in that. So thank you, Muhi.
Absolutely. So we're going to quickly, again, go over and define what makes up the anatomy of donor loyalty and how it relates to each of the steps in the cause selling cycle. So really, once you get a donor's name, maybe it was provided by a lead or they attended an event for the first time. Literally put it into that Google box, right? Hit that search button, see what pops up. That's where your prospecting starts. Some of you may be blessed to have a prospect research team. Don't let go of them. Become best friends with them, right? I can't tell you, again, being a one-person development team, I've had to be scrappy, and I've been at large institutions like the American Red Cross, where thankfully we did have a prospecting team, right? So you can kind of get a sense of what resources and tools are out there that can help you find more information about your donors. And that helped you gather the information that you need to make more informed decisions on how you present your mission to that donor. So then you get to introduce yourselves. Maybe you're a major gift officer, you have a portfolio, and you're just, they know why you're reaching out, you're establishing a connection and for the organization, and eventually you're going to ask them for support. All of those things are there, but it just gives the donor the opportunity to make that first step in connecting with the mission, in increasing their engagement with the organization. And that's why we have portfolios, because maybe only a third of our portfolio is going to be interested in meeting. But then you have other prospects that you can continue to build into your portfolio. And through this process of getting to know your donors and having phone conversations and sending emails back and forth and actually meeting them in person or over Zoom, you get to discover the donor's unique passions. What are their hobbies? What are their interests? What is the reason why they got connected to your organization? And of course, as good development fundraising professionals, we put that information back into the CRM. And then that really allows you to tell the story of the mission, to share more about how your programs and services are making a difference in the community, and how, if your organization didn't exist, what the world would look like. You get to paint that picture for your donors and your supporters and use a variety of methods that maybe they're more infographic focused. Maybe they need more qualitative analysis instead of a quantitative analysis to digest the impact of your work. So you get to create what you get to disseminate to each and every donor. And it's going to look differently because some things will resonate with certain donors and others will resonate more. My favorite, asking for the gift. But before that, you also get to handle objections, right? And you get to answer questions, provide more clarity, maybe bring in a colleague to answer a question that you don't have the answer to, and provide a stronger relationship with the donor with different touch points within the organization. Now, maybe they're connected with a program officer. Now, maybe they're connected with a board member outside of you. And early on in my career, I had to make an adjustment. I was so focused on myself being the relationship manager, right? But I didn't understand that it was beneficial to the donor to have those multiple touch points. Saying, let me introduce you to my colleague. They're an expert in this program that you're interested in. Set up some time to chat with them to learn more, right? And knowing that as a relationship manager, you are that connector for them within the organization. So again, you ask for the gift. Hopefully they say yes, or they say not now, or they say a different amount. But knowing that they've given or are interested, that keeps them in your portfolio. And then you get to follow up with results, because when you do that, it fosters loyalty. All
I love
right.
seeing everyone's favorite. So for those
Yeah.
of you that have obliged and put in, like, what is your favorite step within the model? I love seeing the variations here, right? Like, I said stewardship. I love, Laura, that, yours is handling objections. I think for most people, or maybe this is my big broad assumption, that's probably one of the scariest, parts for some people. So the fact that you embrace that, as what Muhi said, really, this isn't a negative, this is an opportunity. And I think seeing it as an opportunity is the right mindset, and we'll absolutely see greater success in the long run. So yeah, thanks for everyone that's chiming in. The anatomy of the donor loyalty, having these steps here, and then in parentheses, like where it relates to that model in the different phases, I think is fascinating. So yeah, if you would like to chime in and let us know which of these is your favorite, we would love to see that come in.
All right. Thanks for bearing with us. I think having this understanding will make the rest of the presentation that much more impactful. And again, there's different webinars on each of these different topics in the online learning portal. So you can always go back to that for more resources. So we're going to do a community share. Let's drop in the chat a response to how big your development team is and how big your marketing team is. So I want to get a sense of who's in the room. Are you a one person development team, or, okay, I see a team of 5 for development, team of 3 for marketing. Good. Team of 4, including both teams with an ED. Wow. Fundraising 40, marketing 50. Way to go, San Diego Zoo, Laura Rice. Yeah. So you see a gambit of everything: small, newly founded, some long-term institutions. Fantastic. Okay, it's helpful to know who is receiving this information so we can kind of cater it to your audience and make it relevant for you as well. All right. So we talked about segmentation being one of the ways in which we can deepen those connections. So really, segmentation is a powerful tool. It should be in your fundraising toolkit. It helps you manage your capacity by dividing your donor base into these distinct groups. And you can do it based on their giving history, based on their engagement level, based on their demographics, where they live, where they went to school. You can tailor your messaging to resonate more deeply with each segment. And when we talk about loyal donors, these are people who have repeated gifts to you. They've come back year over year, even if it's, 3 out of 5 years, I would still consider that a loyal donor because you know what? Life happens. Maybe they forgot to give to your charity. Maybe your organization forgot to reach out to them. There's so many reasons in which lapsed donors happen. But for this particular definition, we're going to go with loyal donors being year over year giving, consistent annual supporters. And you get to acknowledge their loyalty. You get to express sincere gratitude, right? I'm currently in Atlanta. There's a National Center for Family Philanthropy doing some conference and events, and I'm bumping into donors to American Muslim Community Foundation. And this is something that I co-founded, that I'm the chief development officer of. And even at times, I don't have capacity to do all of the best things that I'm sharing. I'm doing my best that I'm trying to, right? But again, as a one-person development team, it's hard. But networking in these spaces allows me to have that top of mind awareness with these donors, right? So now I get to send out the follow-up emails from interacting with them and being in community with them and take it to the next level and then set up my opportunity to do the presentation and the ask. So you want to make sure that your loyal donors are getting personalized thank yous, that they are getting exclusive updates that make them feel valued and appreciated. When it comes to your lapsed donors, again, this may be out of 3 years, they gave 1 year, they gave last year, but not this year currently, or they gave 2 years ago and they didn't give last year. So now you're trying to win them back as a donor. And this is probably my favorite segmentation. And it is just like you said, good old lie bunt, right? Uh, it gives me such gratification when I can win back a donor. And maybe that tells you more about my personality, but I just, it's a win, and those things need to be celebrated. And I think in our industry, in our profession, we don't celebrate the small things enough. And if you have a portfolio and you have a donor that comes back to the organization, you should ring your bell at your table, right? You should have that moment of appreciation for that donor for coming back to support your mission, but more importantly, to pat yourself on the shoulder, on the back as well. So again, you want to showcase appreciation for their past generosity, the impact that it was able to make, offer a specific call to action for lapsed donors to engage them, and hopefully maybe there's a matching gift incentive or a special project for these lapsed donors specifically so that they can re-engage with the organization. And then, major donors at a different organization, it's going to look differently. When I was at the Red Cross, it was $2,500 was considered a major gift. When I was at the University of Michigan, it was $100,000 was a major gift, right? So every organization is going to have a different definition of what a major donor is. But these are individuals who have made a significant contribution, and they even have the potential to give more. They deserve to have personalized outreach, even engagement from your senior leadership staff, like a board member or executive director. And major donors need to be cultivated, and you get to highlight your major initiatives and give exclusive opportunities to involve these major donors in your mission. So maybe it's with a volunteering opportunity, or somehow showcasing more of the beneficiaries of who you serve, and how their support has made a difference. With new donors, these are first-time donors. They landed into your organization. They should be welcomed with open arms. You should be doing everything you can to win their loyalty with sincerity, right? You want to make sure that maybe they receive a welcome package. It can be electronic, it doesn't have to be in the mail, but something that showcases that you're paying attention to them as a new donor, that they should receive regular updates, and a follow-up call, even to say thank you. And those things will help convert them into repeat donors. And it will help reduce your attrition rates. And the last bucket for segmentation that I like to focus on are, of course, prospective donors. So these are individuals who showed interest, but they haven't donated yet. They should also get tailored messages that emphasize the urgency and the impact of their potential contributions. And even at this conference I attended here, I got introduced to somebody who is a local Atlanta community member. And just by a sheer introductory 5-minute conversation and exchanging things, really showcased how valuable they could be as a donor to my own institution, right? And we made that connection, and they, exchanged contact information with me willingly, right? So like they wanted to follow up with me because I showcased how they could be a value add to the work that we're doing, right? So it's a two-way street when it comes to that. And, oftentimes you got to shoot your shot in those situations to get them in the front door.
I love the wins in the chat, especially this one. So Angie, thank you for sharing. My favorite was when I spoke with an 8-month lapsed donor, and he not only restarted his monthly donation, he asked me to charge him for the 8 missed months. Like, talk about personalized engagement. That is fantastic. And I'll share for me, and Wendy, I know you had commented earlier that you took on a new interim gig. So you're it, right? Like you're doing a lot of it. I'm in a very similar organization, situation with an organization. But what I love is the board chair definitely understands what personalized engagement can do. And the board chair reached out to me and said, could I write a handwritten note to the donors that given to our organization in the last 90 days? And I'm like, yes, absolutely. Let me get all of these cards prepared for you, right? So like having that level of engagement and even awareness, in particular from a board chair, I felt very fortunate in that position. I hope others have felt that as well. What I'm also seeing now, Muhi, and I know I'm not alone, is where organizations are falling short on this, right? And I say this because I'm now getting their gala invitations, but I've not received anything else in between last year's invite and this year's invite, right? And so that is really falling short when it comes to the communication. So one of those that is, here's a stellar example of what to do and a stellar example of perhaps what not to do. And, it runs the gamut for many organizations.
Yeah, I'll say I'm guilty, right? AMCF has our virtual gala, and we put so much emphasis on that event. And it's a great event. It's a award ceremony celebrating community members, similar to National Philanthropy Day, but for the Muslim community. And, you know, with such limited capacity, sometimes that's the only touch point that we can afford to send a postcard out, right? So in the mail, maybe they'll only hear from us twice a year. And throughout the year, sure, our email newsletter is going out. But me personally, I try to do the solicitations for sponsorship and all of those things. And when this goes out, I'm going to be handwriting notes on people's postcards and sending it out to them to remind them about the event. So even if it's the one time we can do it, I try to still at least do that, and then let the other automated things that the organization implements take care of the rest of the touch points, right?
Absolutely.
Awesome. All right. So when it comes to increasing giving and increasing retention, reducing attrition, here are a few different strategies for success. And again, maybe at your organization, you choose one of these, or maybe you have the capacity to do all of them. But I think, pretty consistent, the donor retention rate, which is calculated by the number of donors who made a gift last year and again this year, for first-time donors is 50%. So that means year to year, you will be losing half of your donors, right? If you keep that up in 3 to 5 years and you're losing half of your donors, you're only left with, 10% of your donor base that initially gave in year one, right? So think of all the work, all the time, and all the money your organization has committed to finding those donors. And what a loss if 50% of them do not give again. So that's why we need to work on building those relationships. And great stewardship results in keeping your donors. And great stewardship starts immediately after the gift has been given. So, yes, they should get an email automated receipt. But in addition to that, they should get a personalized email. They should get a handwritten note. They should get a phone call within 48 hours of making that gift. All of these things are great ways to provide good stewardship practices. And it begins with thanking the donor, with recognizing them, with communicating with them about the impact of their gift. So there are three keys to donor retention. And I like to think like a donor. I also like to say thank you like I mean it. And there should be prompt follow-up. And if we look into how our donors come in the door, we should also treat everyone like a major donor. And there are many causes for donor attrition. But if we fail to thank our donors, that's going to be the leading cause, right? And if we consider the following facts when donors choose not to make a second gift, donors who are thanked with impersonal letters are less likely to give again. Donors who are not communicated with about the impact of their gift are less likely to give again. And donor whose only engagement with the nonprofit is the thank you letter, and they're less likely to give again. So why do you think these donors are not likely to make another gift? It's because they haven't felt valued. It's because they haven't felt seen or recognized or appreciated by the organization. So when it comes to matching gift campaigns, we can leverage opportunities to double or triple the impact of donations, right? We want to promote these campaigns heavily through your marketing channels, and emphasize that the limited time nature of the match to create urgency. Um, of course, storytelling is weaved into all of these strategies, and you want to share compelling stories that illustrate the direct impact of your donor contributions. What was accomplished because we received that funding? And whether it's a beneficiary's testimonial, a project update, an end of year report, these stories create an emotional connection and inspire generosity. We can look into recurring giving programs, and even some CRMs in the checkout form, they will automatically suggest recurring or an increasing gift. And these things are to encourage donors to setting up recurring donations. And you get to highlight the benefits of sustained giving and how it helps your organization plan and execute long-term projects more effectively, because they know what to expect month over month, year over year. And definitely, Laura, quick videos are a great way to showcase the impact. A quick 30-second, 1 minute or less video just saying thank you and sharing one or two stories or examples of how their gift is making a difference. So when it comes to donor recognition, every donor is going to be different. Some want to stay out of the limelight, others want to be all up in it. And when you get to publicly recognize your donors, you can do it in a simple way, even in an email newsletter, on social media, in annual reports. So highlighting their contributions not only makes them feel valued, but also motivates others to give. I know that if, when we were planning AMCF's virtual gala, we in 1 year received funding from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Small micro marketing grant, nothing big. But because of that name, we were able to attract other donors because they wanted to be part of something that the Gates Foundation was supporting. So similarly, if there are other donors in your community that have that same social status and are lending their name to you, others want to be associated with that as well. So events and engagement. You can host virtual or in-person events that bring your community together. These, again, could be year-end galas. They could be webinars with impactful speakers. They could be private or behind-the-scene tours. And these events create a sense of community and also an opportunity for urgency around your fundraising goals. So I'll pause there. Jarrett, any insights on increasing giving and retention?
Yeah, these are great strategies for success. I still follow the ask, think, report, repeat model, right? So we're asking them, we're thanking them, we're reporting to them what their gift has done, and then we're repeating that process. So I always, keep that in mind, as well as the cause selling model, and integrate those two, because it's very complementary. One thing that I used to do with an organization is we would have monthly or every other month really CEO lunch roundtable. And so we would, if anyone is familiar with the Benavon model, right? Like back in the day, that's definitely a model that we used to do. And we would have lunch with the CEO or the executive director. We would use that time to really have an intimate gathering at the location, at the organization. And then we would do a brief little presentation, talk about where we are as an organization straight from the CEO. And then we would also, share stories, and they would have time, the attendees, to ask any questions of the CEO. That was successful in a lot of ways. It really just depends on like what is the purpose. But that is something, if any of you are looking to really, hold a smaller event or smaller type of engagement, those could also be done virtually. They certainly don't have to be monthly, maybe a quarterly. And it could certainly also be really, a VIP experience, perhaps for a specific market of your supporters. It doesn't have to be casted to all of your supporters. Maybe that's what you want to do. But there's a lot of ways really to do that. So I share that as an example of something that's worked for me. I live in the Metro Phoenix area, and that was, definitely well received, and not a heavy lift either. So it was nice.
Yeah, and I've heard them called salons or Jeffersonian dinners,
Yeah.
and even just a house party, let's be honest, right? You have a board member, they have friends in the community that hopefully they want to introduce to the organizations that they're serving. And it just makes for an easy way to, even if it's just 15 minutes of remarks and Q&A, and then the rest of the time is just having a blast and being social, right? So it doesn't have to be too buttoned up or formulated, but just get people in a room, continue to build your prospect pipeline, and these are easy ways to do it.
Yeah.
Which reminds me, Phoenix, November, I'm gonna come see you. Awesome. All right. So next we're going to go into tips for fundraisers. Um, we want to make sure that there are effective marketing strategies that are going to increase your engagement. And if you're able to look into these tips, it might help. And there's likely others that are missing from this list as well. But here were a few that I thought would be helpful. So if you are going to focus on investing so much money into CRMs, right? Investing so much time and energy into acquiring donor data, you really want to be able to use that information to inform your strategies. And you can track which campaigns have been most successful. You should be looking at the click-through rates from the emails that are sent out, what links are being opened, which ones are being tracked the most. And all of these analytics can help you refine your approach, can help you just tweak it month by month every time it goes out, and look into where the opportunities for growth are. And by hopefully doing this, you can then target your efforts more effectively. When it comes to personalized communication, right? If I'm going to send out even a mail merge email, right? I'm going to leave a section in there for a personalized note. So even though I'm being mass appeal in my process, it's still personalized, So you can tailor your communications to the interests and histories of your donors. Now, if you're doing this in a email marketing platform from your CRM or one of the ones in the industry, it may not feel as personalized as if you just did a mail merge from Google or Outlook. But you should hopefully include things that make it feel personalized. And then, of course, we talked about those handwritten notes, even if it's a simple PS or crossing out their typed name and handwriting their name, those things will be noticed. And direct phone calls, don't be afraid. We're so um, avoidant of our own phones ringing, but I think we need to also be bold about our missions that we're working for, right? And being able to pick up the phone, make a cold call, or even a warm lead from a friend, that makes a significant difference. And we should use the data from our segmentation efforts to craft messages that will resonate. Um, and yeah, sometimes it's hard to get a response from people, but I think our attitude, our inflection of how we're talking on the phone as well, being cheery and smiling, hopefully you can win somebody over for just a few minutes of their time to share a little bit more about why they care about your cause, right? And it is daunting. I've been there before when I've scheduled time off on my calendar to say this is phone call time. I'm just like dreading making that first one. But once you get into a rhythm, hopefully it's a little bit better.
The other
Uh,
thing, Muhi, I'll just chime in real quick because Michelle, I feel you, right? Like absolutely. It certainly can be awkward when someone doesn't engage on the phone. Also have that script that sounds, personalized and is familiar in your words to leave a voicemail. Because what I'm finding to be the reality is we're often leaving a lot of voicemails, right? And I'm guilty of this where I will read the transcript as opposed to playing the voicemail for me to hear the voicemail. So I'm always, really reading that transcript of what was left on my voicemail message. So just a tip there, right? Like be ready to leave a message, certainly. Hopefully it doesn't sound robotic. I did mention a script, but again, be playful in that as you're leaving that message. Hopefully the script is, just a good baseline for you to go to maybe when you're nervous or you trip over your words or kind of caught off guard. But definitely use the opportunity of the voicemail message just as you would in that voice to voice exchange. Thank you, Muhi.
no, my pleasure. I enjoy learning from you, Jarrett. So thank you for sharing your wisdom. Um, multi-channel marketing, seems like a fancy word, but you're probably already doing it already. And just don't rely on one method of communication, right? You can't just put all your eggs in the email bucket and not do social media. You can't just do phone calls only and not do direct mail. Think about your database. I know I don't have an address, an email, and a phone for every single donor. So I'm going to have to mix up the ways in which I reach out to those donors. And if we are consistent, if we are coordinated, you can adapt that messaging across multiple channels to get your voice across. And sometimes, it takes 7 times in the marketing uh, world to see a message for it to stick at a minimum, right? So we can't just be one and done about these things. And if you had to pick only one social media platform, that's fine. That's what you have the capacity for. But if you can get on multiple, if you have the ability to have somebody dedicated to manage a Hootsuite social media platform and all of those things, it will make a big difference in your approach with your donors because you want to meet them where they are, right? So you want to establish these multiple channels so that it reinforces the missions that you're working for. Clear calls to action. So every piece of communication should have a clear, compelling call to action. And whether it's donating or attending an event or sharing your message, you want to make it easy for your supporters to know what you need them to do. And then you get to have the pleasure of thanking and acknowledging your donors. And again, we talked about doing this promptly, and acknowledge their generosity publicly, privately. Let them know how their gift is making a difference. And this will reinforce their decision to support your organization and hopefully increases the likelihood of future gifts. Um, One thing that AMCF made sure to do this year was integrate donors in the community that we knew into AFP's National Philanthropy Day in communities across the country. So we took time to nominate our donors on AFP's National Philanthropy Day, right? So they get recognition through external means as well, showcasing to them how much we appreciate what they've done for our organization. So that was another way to simply acknowledge some of the donors that we have as well. And then lastly, leveraging technology. You can use different fundraising platforms. There are multitudes of CRM systems. There are now even marketing automation tools, everything with AI, streamlining your efforts. And these technologies can help manage donor relationships. They can help you track campaign progress. They can automate some of those personalized communications as well. So again, sometimes it is, not so budget conducive, but if you have the ability to spend on these technologies, research how they can make a difference, even if it's simply setting aside a budget. So, looking into what can your organizations do. And when it comes to creating a budget, maybe your board members are informing some of these decisions. Maybe your senior staff members are having conversations around what the budget should look like for next fiscal year, and talk about how you want to be able to do more social media ad spend. Talk about what you want to create a budget around to get in front of more donors. So, you know, from now until even launching your year-end campaign, right? That's why we're here. We've got roughly 2 months before Thanksgiving, right? If your go live date is Giving Tuesday, you can still put in a lot of effort in the next 60 days to have a successful year-end campaign. And, you know, if it's going to include a postcard, if it's going to include some events, whatever you have to do, again, even if it's a shoestring budget, try to do what you can. Secondly, we talked a little bit about segmentation, right? So you want to be able to pull your data. And we have data, yes, we have a CRM, but we also use a text messaging platform outside of that. We also use, other means to get in front of donors. So how can we pull all of those different data sets and create a strategy? You want to devise who you send a mailer to, and maybe it's only lapsed donors who gave $500 or more, right? So instead of sending it to a list of 8,000 in your database, you're now only sending it to 500. And that's a much more manageable list to print and mail and all of that cost involved with it to absorb. Many of you are likely using and taking advantage of Google for Nonprofits. And you might not be an SEO expert or even know what keywords are and campaigns for ads are. but looking at what you can do to at least set up those online ads that are free for you. It's free advertising. At least do the bare minimum to set it up, even if you can't enhance and tweak it, right? So take the few hours that 1 week, whatever, to brainstorm what some keywords should be, what some targeting ads should look like, and make sure you take advantage of services like Google for Nonprofits. And then you want to see who is clicking what. Again, open up the analytics from your emails. If you noticed somebody clicked the donate link but didn't donate, don't say, oh, I saw you wanted to make a donation, but say, just wanted to check in with you and see if you had any questions about our work that we're doing. Would love to schedule a time at your convenience, right? And maybe get in front of them, to then have an opportunity to have a discussion. And then again, you want to track efficiency. Use your data to inform your decisions. Any thoughts as a consultant or as somebody who's been in these positions, Jarrett?
Yeah, for me, I love the email analytics. That is definitely something that I look at, but I don't follow through on, really to see where were people going? Did they follow through on that donation click through? Really using that as a touch point opportunity. I love, love, love data driven decisions, right? Like that is definitely something that I like to nerd out about. But looking at those email analytics, I mean, you fessed up to being guilty on something earlier. I will fess up to being guilty on email analytics. And that is often one that I overlook, and it holds so much power. So definitely thank you for that. I know a lot of people will be starting their end of year, around that Giving Tuesday. I was sharing with Muhi offline before we started. I usually coach my clients to start October 1 and carrying it out for the entire Q4 of the calendar year. So we would start October 1, essentially end December 31. I do have a gratitude piece that I also recommend sending out in January. So it is, alongside that ask, think, report, repeat, because we're going to be doing that within the final 90 days, October, November, December. And then, of course, thanking our supporters in that early January, letting them know, how much the collective support has come in. We're a little different in Arizona. Many of the organizations I work with are a qualified charitable organization, which means they individuals, filing taxes can do a dollar for dollar tax donation, essentially, right? So they would donate to a qualified charitable organization in lieu of paying that dollar amount taxes. So that's a state credit that's offered. Again, that is, unique to Arizona. I know that there's other states within the US that also offer that. So that is certainly a segmented group that I work with the organizations to pull, right? Like who are our tax credit donors last year? And that can be significant. So I appreciate all of this when it comes to implementation, because believe it or not, end of year is upon us, right? Which is why we're having the discussion today.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I've served as a consultant as well, and many of you on the call likely consult, and you're going to have to owe taxes, right? So if you're in a state like Arizona, taking advantage of that system is really helpful. Yeah. Great. Well, a reminder to ask any questions, because we will be transitioning into the Q&A aspect very soon. So if you haven't submitted a question yet, please use the Q&A feature, and we will continue the conversation. So, essentially, as you focus on your year-end giving, hopefully I've left you with some key pointers that you can take back to your organizations. And, not everything we suggest is going to fit into your organization as well, right? So really look at what each of those aspects are. And maybe you only have the capacity to implement two out of the 10 things we discussed, right? So at least start with those two. And Jarrett, I love the idea of starting year-end fundraising October 1st. It really creates that window of opportunity to reach out to your donors, to set up the meetings, and really be that much more thoughtful of your engagement throughout the entire 90 days. Because, to be honest, yeah, you can set everything to launch Giving Tuesday, right? But then that's really the busiest time of year for so many families, right? In the holidays, in between different deadlines for work and everything. So I love your idea about October 1st.
Yeah, and I'll share a brief success story. I was working with an organization last year, and they did the typical, really December was their end of year campaign, and they raised $37,000. When I helped them, so that was 2 years ago. When I helped them last year, we moved the needle big time from 37,000 to $177,000. And that was, the success of starting in October, ending in December, really having several touch points. In fact, I've outlined this on a LinkedIn article, given away all my secrets, right? And really what that was for me and what I would love to leave everyone, today is consistency. So when you think your end of year campaign is not working, do not let off the gas, right? Stay consistent. Stay with the techniques that you've chosen, perhaps from today's discussion that Muhi has provided. Like, really stay the course. Engage volunteers, engage board members to be active in this, whether it's a touch point, maybe they know someone, or whether it's a lapsed donor, or perhaps, one of the strategies I also love to do for the monthly donors is to ask them to make an additional monthly gift during November or December, right? So we are incrementally increasing their gift, but we're increasing their gift. And I think for, just one of those strategies, that could be a simple ask. So you're not asking them for a large sum above and beyond what they're doing monthly. You're simply asking for them to double up on that donation in any given month. So that could be a strategy that you want to implement as well.
Love that. Jerry, I think you should have just been presenting this whole time.
No, we're better together.
No, and for those of you who are in love with everything Jarrett is saying, rightfully so, she's actually going to be presenting, I think, in December.
December. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you'll be in good hands with her there.
Yeah.
So of course, the summary here, the talking points, really again is really focus on segmentation. You want to, of course, personalize your outreach. You want to see how we can implement strategies that will reduce attrition, that will increase retention, and most importantly, hopefully we said it and shouted it from our rooftops and mountaintops, you want to thank often. So, the year-end giving season is vital. It is when organizations receive a majority of their funding. It's a great opportunity for nonprofit organizations to secure essential funding and reinforce donor relationships. Maybe your donors haven't heard from you since last year. Start a little bit earlier this year, right? And by segmenting your donor base, by employing strategic giving tactics, and engaging in effective marketing and engagement practices, you can maximize your fundraising outcomes. And remember, the key to successful year-end giving lies in personalized, data-driven approaches that make your donors feel valued and integral to your mission. So as you gear up for your year end, hopefully you can use some of these strategies to create meaningful connections and drive impact support for your cause. With thoughtful planning and execution, I'm sure that your year-end campaign can not only meet but exceed your fundraising goals, right? There is enough generosity in the community to make sure all of our organizations are fully funded, are set up for years to come. And we need to operate from this abundance mindset rather than a scarcity mindset in order to be successful. So, let's set the stage for continued success. Let's have a strong year-end strategy that gives us the legs we need for continued success in the coming year. And it's been a real pleasure and honor sharing these tidbits with you, and I hope that it's been helpful.
Yeah, and if anyone has any questions, I think we have just a little bit of time left. And so if you have any questions, please do use the Q&A and or the chat if you're comfortable there as well. Now's a great time to ask those, pointed, kind of laser focused questions that you might have for us. And then also as a reminder for any of you that are also working on your CFRE, the CFRE tracker will be sent to you and you can fill that in post webinar. I know we got a question on that earlier. And then the recording will be sent to all of you as well for being registered. If you would like to connect with us, certainly do that. You can connect with both Muhi and I on LinkedIn. We're both quite active there. You will see, both of our connection with Fundraising Academy. We're also co-presenting in 2025 at another conference. So lots of good things between the two of us, and we're here to serve and happy to help. So reminder to sign up for that portal. So the online portal is available to you at no charge. It is free. So make sure you register. That is register.fundraising-academy.org. You can also just use your smartphone, scan that QR, and go ahead and take advantage of plenty of resources there, especially as an OG 20 plus years. I still find myself visiting the portal, and I commend many of you. I just want to call out Muhi in the beginning when we did our poll, right? Like we had a lot of professionals over 10 years. So commend you, applaud you for continued learning. That is one thing I love about our sector and the professionals. I like to refer to you as nerds as well. And that's a nice thing, right? Coming from me. But I really commend all of you for that continued learning. So thank you for being here and for all that you do. So we do have additional webinars coming up. There will be one just about every month. So we hope that you register for those and join us. And let's definitely connect. There's many ways to do that. And if you have any questions, send us an email. We'd be happy to help. We do have one question. Let me see. Okay, Muhi, what type and how many touch points do you recommend between October and December? I'll let you answer that, Muhi, and I'm happy to share from my perspective as well.
Yeah, for sure. Michelle, great question. Again, bare minimum essential that I employ at AMCF. We do a monthly newsletter that goes out. So that will be one touch point there. I look at a list of lapsed donors every month. So that would be another touch point. They may get a personal outreach email from me. And at a certain level, they may get a phone call from me as well. So a mix between those. We haven't used our text messaging platform recently, so that's a good reminder for me to drop a message in support of the different programs that we have going on that way. So again, I'd say on a monthly basis, there should be different ways in which you are touching base with them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was responding to you, Brandon. So I see your question there, Muhi, if you want to address Brandon's question as well. So my secret sauce that I share in my article, October to December, I did 10 emails. So that was 10 emails during the 90 days. I did 2 in October, 3 in November, 5 in December, with very minimal unsubscribe rates, right? Because these were very targeted to those supporters. I also, as Muhi mentioned, pardon me, Muhi, leveraging those multiple channels. So the multi-channel marketing was a big one. The other thing I want to share is I maintained consistent branding. So I selected the images that I wanted to use throughout the next 90 days and I stayed the course, right? Like, yes, I myself got tired of looking at those same images, but as Muhi pointed out, it usually takes about 7 touches for someone to really respond, take action, for that to really resonate. So while we might get tired of those images that we select, I guarantee you the end result, right? The individuals that are seeing this, they are probably just now starting to recognize the images. So I stayed the course on that. And again, happy to share more. Brandon, I will move over to you. Welcome to fundraising, right? It's a very fun, I love it. Career, I will say there's a lot of great things there. There's a lot of different CRMs, and I see Muhi provided some feedback for you as well. There are tons of CRM options. I think what I will say, here publicly is to make sure that you find the CRM that fits your organization, not only your organization's budget and the constituency base, but what you have time for your team to manage. That I think is also very important. I always say select a CRM as to where you want to go in the next year or two, not necessarily where you are today, but you've got a little bit of bandwidth to grow. And again, there's several. I don't want to endorse any particular, although I do certainly have some favorites, and you're welcome to reach out to me personally.
For sure. I see another question from Charisse. My org hosts their gala in October. How do you suggest we manage Giving Tuesday and end of year giving considering? I think, hopefully you get a lion's share majority of people giving at the gala itself. But I think Giving Tuesday and end of year giving provide a great follow-up opportunity, especially for those who didn't give. So that's where segmentation comes in handy. You don't want to be sending the Giving Tuesday and end of year appeals to those who gave at the gala, right? You want to thank the people at the gala. If you have data that suggests they only gave 500 at the gala and last year they gave 2,500, sure, you might want to make an informed decision on how to approach that donor about receiving another gift. But I think that Giving Tuesday, end of year giving are complementary to the galas that you're hosting. So if you're able to do a little bit more segmentation of, and then you're going to have hundreds or dozens or several people who didn't attend the gala, right? So you need to have these other opportunities to get these donors in the door before the end of the year.
Yeah. And I weave all of that in to your messaging, right? So what I would recommend is what is that dollar amount you're looking to raise? And what will that dollar amount do, right? Like, what is that impact? So, for an example, you're a food bank and you want to serve, X amount of meals by the end of the year, or you want to serve X amount of families. Whatever that impact, really bring that into your storytelling to share why that dollar amount is important and what that end result or that impact essentially will do. And then I would maintain that same messaging with the Giving Tuesdays and these other special days. If you have a match gift, right? Like, I think that's another, as Muhi mentioned earlier in the webinar, that's a great strategy to implement. It doesn't even have to be for the entirety of the campaign. It could be 1 week. It could be 1 day. We are also coming up, obviously, with the presidential election. So that's coming up soon in November. But what I am learning and really observing, I will say, from both parties is their fundraising techniques and how they are messaging, and the importance that they're using, the language that they're using to really entice their supporter group to give. So if any of you can stomach, right, like observing that, I think that's a really good best practice. It's one that I love to do, to observe and really witness, again, from both, or I should say all parties, to see how a different segmentation group, political fundraising, right? Like, how do they approach their donors? How do they steward their donors? I'm really big on benchmarking, whether it's competitive or, generic, but I think you can learn a lot there. So going back to the question, was really build all of your end of year campaign, your gala, your Giving Tuesday into one message and that one goal, if you will, as well as that impact. What will that goal do when you reach it? And also, I'm going to say, don't be afraid to report that you did not reach it, right? And give people an opportunity to make an additional gift, or to make their first gift if they haven't given, right? So I always come from a place of transparency. Last year, the goal that we wanted to make was actually $200,000. I shared that we made 177. I certainly shared that while we did not reach our ultimate, $200,000 goal, we made significant strides. And then, yes, we did have some additional support come in. Still not quite that $200,000 mark, which was quite lofty for 90 days for this small organization. But there's so many ways that you can really bring that in, Carissa, and I hope that we're pronouncing your name properly.
Excellent. I see another one in the chat. Our first gala is around the corner. The event is ready to go. We have no tickets sold or sponsors signed up. What do I do in the crunch of 5 weeks to make it a success? Phone calls, blitz strategy to connect with who you want to show up. Who is your target audience? Can you get other people, your board members, engaged? So think creatively about how you want to fill up the room, who you want there. And yes, it's going to take a lot of effort, but 5 weeks is still plenty of time. So hopefully you haven't started losing hope yet. And you should be able to have a successful event in the next 5 weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. Great insight. And then I would, to tag on to that, I would say, like, what is the ultimate goal? Is it that you want to have a room filled with people? I know originally it's probably you want to have the room filled with the right people. And I think really moving towards, okay, now we're in 5 weeks. I do agree. You still got quite a bit of time to implement a lot of strategies. What I say in our community, and I think this is probably across the US, is we are often late to register, right? Like, a lot of people are really in that final 2 week, 1 week kind of time frame. So don't give up don't let up off the gas. Definitely stay the course, be consistent. Reach out to individuals directly and have, as Muhi said, engage those board members and other supporters. So we wish you luck. I know it's a heavy lift. The other thing I say with events is, once that event is over, that's when I really feel, as a fundraiser, our work starts, right? So as soon as you kick off your heels or take off your tie, whatever it is, right, from that event, and you kind of have that de-escalation, the next day you hit the ground again, right? You're touching base with the individuals that were there. So yeah, there's a lot of good strategies to put into place in the next 5 weeks. So
Events, a love and hate relationship.
yeah, definitely. Okay, any other questions that we have here in our final couple of minutes? Thank you, Jim. We'll definitely connect, and appreciate your comments here. All right. Well, again, feel free to reach out to Muhi or I on LinkedIn. Of course, reach out to Fundraising Academy at National University if you have any questions. Please make sure to register for November's webinar. We'll have another one in December. Muhi gave you a sneak peek that I will be that presenter in December. And thank you for joining us. There will be a survey that comes to you immediately upon closing of this webinar. We encourage you to please fill out that survey. That's how we know that we're doing a good job or ways that we can improve and do a better job. So thank you for being here and best of luck on that end of year fundraising. Thank you, Muhi.
Likewise. Take care, everyone.